We continue to inch closer to Georgia and Alabama, a colossal showdown at the Dome. But Ryan, this week has really been there's been a lot about coaching changes. We're going to talk about that, but let's stick to the Dogs and Tide for now at least. And Nick Saban is I think rightly talking about how Georgia is the best team in the country right now, and how big a challenge this will be for his program and team.
Georgia is the best team in the country, and there's no question about it. They've been the best. They've been ranked number one for a few weeks now, and probably about 3 weeks before they were ranked number one is when I
Yeah.
think you and I started really thinking, yeah, they're the best team in the country. Um, they're just better than everyone else. That's what they've shown so far. Job's not
Mhm.
finished. If they want to have a historic season, they got to win 3 more games. But from what we've seen in 12 games, they're the best team so far. I think there's obviously a few things we could talk about. The rankings were interesting. Um,
Well, let me just put
Talked
this
to
here.
Trayvon and Quay tonight.
Well, before we talk about those two defenders, you can see it on the screen right now. You right this second. I want to point out it's a great time, y'all. $2 for 2 months. Make sure you take advantage of that opportunity. I do not do these deals very often. It's right there at the top. You can just click on the screen down below. I will have the link. But this is the article from tonight talking about all the chaos that we've had in college football. And by the way, Georgia and Alabama are going to be playing for the Southeastern Conference Championship in no time here. So, you know, let's start with Trayvon and Quay tonight.
Yeah, I asked everyone has kind of been afraid of framing the question. I think that everyone's been framing the question a little too softly when they ask, is it just another game? So I was pretty straight up with Trayvon. I said, how bad do you want to beat Alabama?
Right.
Got him to smile a little bit. And he admitted, yeah, I mean, I want to beat them pretty bad. I mean, they've had our number, blah, blah, blah. But they want to go out there and dominate, man. There's history between these two programs, recent history,
Yeah.
and it's a huge matchup. This is arguably going to be the biggest matchup of the year. It could be. We don't know what's going to happen with the playoffs. Obviously, the national championship's a bigger stage, but this is a top three SEC championship matchup that happens sometimes, and it's between Georgia and Alabama. It's going to get the TV attention.
Oh, I mean, are you trying to trigger me right now?
No, I know you love talking about TV
No,
numbers.
I mean, I don't know what that will be. That's a good question. The record for this game, I would have to ask my friends at CBS in New York, but I think it's 16 million just going off the top of my head. That's not quite college football playoff semifinal number, but it's pretty close. This year, I think there will be a dramatic amount of people watching the game because they will want to know what this game means, not just for those two teams, but for the other teams surrounding. Obviously, if Alabama wins, they 100% take away a spot from everybody else. The playoff tonight, when we're recording this, was Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Alabama 3, Cincinnati 4. And then the curious part, and I was going off memory there, now I'm actually make certain what I said was correct, was uh, Oklahoma State at 5, and then coachless Notre Dame at 6. I mean, what is the likelihood Notre Dame gets into this thing without a
You know
coach?
what? You know what? Someone was telling me, I can't remember who, but someone was telling me today that they didn't really think that tonight's rankings matter. But I think
They
putting
don't.
Oklahoma State at five, no, I think it does. I think it shows
All
that they think. I mean, we discussed how if say Michigan loses, right,
right.
or
Okay.
Alabama, or if Alabama loses, if one of these top four gets knocked out,
Well, top four will
then
lose.
we assumed, yeah, but whether one gets knocked out may not be the case if it's Georgia that loses.
True. That's a good point.
But we assumed that Notre Dame would be the one to creep in. But them valuing Oklahoma State over Notre Dame now changes that,
Yeah.
especially if Oklahoma State wins their game next week. Notre Dame doesn't have a game; they can't
Well,
add anything.
I got ahead of myself there. I really it did look like it would be Notre Dame, and that really would be a chaotic situation. You
I
need a
think
head.
Notre Dame's out of the. I
Yeah.
think that what we saw tonight shows that Notre Dame's out of the playoff.
It feels like it. I mean, they need like everybody to lose. I
I
don't
mean,
see.
it's a
I'll
matter
tell you
of
this. I don't think you can keep Notre Dame out if Alabama loses. Michigan loses, and Cincinnati lose.
Yeah, I think if two of them
Those
lose, then Notre Dame slips in.
those three things happening are not at all out of the realm of possibility. Those three things happening all at the same time may be a little less likely. I mean, I don't know what Cincinnati is favored by. I think it's not quite double digits, or it's somewhere in that ballpark. And okay, I'll just tell you, I don't want to guess. Michigan's at 10.5. That's
Yeah,
not
I think
that's
my biggest takeaway from that top six tonight was that Notre Dame's path is not as easy as you and I speculated the other day.
yeah. We got out over our skis for sure because what we didn't know I think was
Yeah.
the Oklahoma State situation, and that
Yeah,
has
I don't think
changed
that game was
has
over
changed
yet when we
things.
were talking about that. So,
Well, anyway. Now we sound like we're trying to cover for something. Notre Dame can totally still get into this thing. Both Michigan and
yeah.
Cincinnati as 10.5 point favorites losing. I mean, that is really uncommon in college football. Once you get to a double digit, line, it just, like for instance, it's not the same as South Carolina beating Georgia in 2019, but maybe it might be the same for both of them to lose as Georgia losing South Carolina in 19, just those two events happening on the same day, happening the same way that Carolina and Georgia did. Like a 10.5 point favorite, you don't lose very often. I mean, it's just not a common thing. You're looking at around a 3/4 chance to win. I mean, that's not flipping a coin.
It would be. I think it's very unlikely that we see both of them lose.
I
That
mean,
would just be total chaos. It'd
I
be
don't.
fun. I mean, it'd be interesting, but
Obviously, I don't know
uh
anything, right? I'm not in the predictive markets. That's not what I do for a living. I talk about sports for a living. So I'm not some sort of genius, all right? I'm not a rocket scientist, rocket surgeon, or even just a regular surgeon. But I do know through the history of college football that when chaos tends to happen, it's usually in a weekend. It's not over multiple stretches of time. That can happen, and there's no certainty that just because one weekend was nuts doesn't mean the next won't be. But I don't know, man. I mean, like Ohio State and Oklahoma losing the same weekend, that's probably happened 4 times in the last 15 years. I mean, it's just not something that's super common. And for you know Alabama and Michigan to lose in the same period of time would kind of be hard to see happening too. I just think that my suspicion is I like being the favorite. I want to be the favorite. I want to be the front runner. I don't know how vocal I was to you about it, but I may have been. But I thought that at the beginning of the season that Georgia being a 3.5 point dog to Clemson didn't make a ton of sense to me going into that game. And I thought either I don't know what I'm talking about here, which is totally possible, certainly at the beginning of the seasons for sure, or folks have gotten it wrong and they jumped on Clemson in a big way. I don't. I mean, having watched Iowa enough, they are a similar team to Michigan. The thing I'd be worried about if I were Michigan is, you're not the type of team that has the capability to blow people out. They have played that they solidly beat Ohio State, but I mean Michigan and Iowa got a lot in common, and I think just for me, um, I I don't know. I would be nervous about playing a game that could just be tight for just sort of no real reason. I mean, they beat Rutgers by a touchdown at home. They survived
so
to the
you're Michigan. You're worried about Iowa.
I would totally be worried about Iowa
Iowa.
the same way this past week I said Oklahoma better watch it, Alabama better watch it, and Ohio State better watch it. And three of those
I'll give you credit about the Michigan one.
totally,
I
yeah.
thought that I'll be honest. I thought that Ohio State was significantly better than Michigan. I thought they were going to win multiple
I, I
touchdowns.
I did too, but I mean, like I'm
Oh,
seeing
okay.
you're in the screen over here. I did too, but I felt something, and I'll tell you this. Now we've not done our final feelings or anything like that. I don't have a great feeling for Alabama this weekend either. I think they are coming to Atlanta, and it's just going to be a tough game for Alabama to win. It doesn't mean they can't. It's just going to be a tough game for Alabama to win. Georgia is the better team, and they're the better team in ways that Alabama traditionally is better than Georgia, which is in the line of scrimmage and in the power positions. Alabama's quarterback is better. I don't know. I don't know that the running back is better. Alabama's receivers individually are probably better. After that, and I don't know their skill guys so well, but after that, Georgia by and large has better players and certainly has more depth. I do not like this matchup for Alabama.
I don't like it either, and it's just hard for me to see Alabama putting up enough points to beat Georgia. Georgia's only struggled to score in one game this year, and that was the first game against Clemson, where they had
Against
an injured quarterback.
against
And
the number
that was
two
the
defense in terms of scoring in the country. You can say whatever you want about Clemson, and they got a lot of guys playing, drawing Social Security that are playing defense for them. But they are a good defense. They're steady. They're stout. It's hard to have explosive plays on them. I guess you can grind them out. Pittsburgh did, but Pittsburgh has a very good quarterback. Georgia's offense is, man, I'm telling you, they played really well against Georgia Tech, and people
Oh,
dismiss
they
it
did.
because it's Georgia Tech, and it's like, just watch them play.
They were
Don't
flashy against Georgia Tech too. I mean,
don't.
they were throwing fades, the way that Brock Bowers ran down the field.
Stetson played
The pass to
wonderful.
Jermaine Burton is one we haven't talked about. That was a beautiful
It was
drop
off
in
the
the
back of
bucket
his
in the end
foot.
zone. Yeah, it was an effortless throw.
Now,
And
yeah,
well, I'll go.
I wanted to
But
pivot back to Michigan when I got a little bit more to say there, but I know actually we should talk more about Georgia. But go ahead.
we should talk about but
I think they
Georgia's
played
only struggled
really
in that one
well.
game. Georgia
They
only
had
struggled in that one game
they kind of goofed
to
around.
score, but otherwise they've put up at least 30.
Let's see. Yeah,
They
well,
put
I
up
mean they had
right?
they had the 34 against.
The
I'm going to
30
Dawg Post to check the
Kentucky was their second lowest score.
which was 30, and then Auburn was 34. But they've not failed. They've this season they've failed to score fewer than 20 points in a game, with the exception of the Clemson game. That's it.
You
And
know, Alabama's defense is not the Alabama defense of the early 2010s. This isn't
no,
some stout defense.
no,
Georgia's putting over 40 points a game.
yeah.
I think Georgia will have the ability to score, and I doubt that Alabama's going to be able to put up a lot of points against Georgia's defense. It's just a different beast that they're going up against, and they're going to struggle. I'm not saying they're going to get. I don't
Annihilated.
know if I don't know if they'll get annihilated to the point where they're scoring one touchdown or something like that. They put up they could put up
They
somewhere between
scored.
2 and
They
4.
scored one
But
touchdown against Auburn, though, man.
I
I mean,
know
like,
it was.
and that's a tough
There's a lot
place
of
to
stuff.
play.
That tough place to play. It was dark, and you know
They play.
that.
You're telling me they play football at night now?
No, listen. I don't even know why I said that. I erased that.
That
That's
was
stupid.
fact. Fact. It was
It was
dark.
factual. I didn't say
Yes.
anything wrong. But no, it was a hostile night game. Is really
No,
what I meant.
it's a tough, sketchy place to play. It really is. You better be ready.
Yeah, Georgia struggled for them for about a quarter.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, it struggled the
Georgia
right way.
figures it out after takes some time to get
So,
loose. Is probably a better
so
way to put
so when you talk to people in football, they'll say, he comes out often very bland, Kirby, if he can, and sees sort of how long he can do that, and if they can win like that, that's what they roll with. That this is what people say to me. I'm not saying it's fact, like it was dark during the Auburn Alabama game, but and then I think why you see Georgia do so well in the second and I feel like third quarters is their adjustments. I mean, they do adjust. I mean, think about the Tennessee game and Tennessee having the lead in two different moments against the Dogs. Did Clemson never had the lead? Were they down? Was Clemson down 7-3 or 10-0? Can you remember off the top of your head?
it.
I can't remember off the
They were down 3-0, and then it was
It, it,
10-0,
it
right?
wasn't 3-0. No, it was 7-0, I think. Well, anyway, the point is that, for this Georgia team, they just don't get down a lot. And they make adjustments which keep them rolling along the way. I think for me, Kirby and them do an excellent job of adjusting. They did it. The the Rose Bowl was probably the best example coming out of half and what they did with two Lincoln Riley and company. But yeah, they got up 10-0 on Clemson and should have put that game away. Didn't, but should have put that game away and did not, and kind of had to freak out the whole time. But yeah, they were up 7-0 in the second with a little bit more to go. With a little bit to go, now that play from Chris Smith is going to go down as one of the most important plays in Georgia history. But what we don't know, Ryan, is honestly who will make the ultimate play this season. What play, if there's any play, will be remembered as the championship play of this season? Will it be the Chris Smith play? I don't know. We can't
Um,
know that yet.
no, we can't know that because we don't know what's going to happen, and they have to win the championship too.
Right.
But
Oh no,
the
you can
two
remember
probably
plays. No, there are
well, no,
plenty of
you'll remember
plays.
plays, but
Yeah, there are plenty
like
of
the
plays
two,
where Georgia has not won a championship, and people talk about that particular play. DJ Shockley's pick six against Florida. Even though the Dogs had a lead in the fourth quarter of that game, or certainly in the third late in 2002 against Tennessee, against the Gators. I mean, there's any number. I mean, the most famous play, arguably the most famous play in college football history, if not one of the most, which was Tua's throw to Devontae Smith for a national championship win. I mean, people talk about that play, and Georgia fans are disgusted by it. So it's not what we're not. I mean, I think they are likely on the path here to win the national championship. If you can't tell from the way I'm acting, but I do want to see how it progresses. We don't know what the play of the season will be. They would have scored against Clemson. They would have kicked a field goal at a minimum at the end of the game because it was just the way they were driving against Clemson. But that Chris play could be the play. I mean, the Kobe Dean interception. Well, what do you think
then the Kobe Dean pick six
against the Gators or
against.
Dan Jackson's block punt? I mean, there have been plays.
But the only one that was game defining was the Chris Smith one. Uh,
Yeah,
the other one,
game
this is
winning.
not a game defining play, but this is a moment of the year, was Jordan Davis' touchdown.
Oh
I mean, those are the
yeah.
moments we're going to remember.
I mean, that put them
Those are the
up in that.
moments.
That was a game-winning touchdown, technically. I mean, they got 7-0. So I mean, I don't know if the AP.
Those are the two biggest plays that probably stick out to you as just memorable plays that really mattered this year was Jordan Davis's touchdown and Chris Smith's pick six.
The Nakobe pick six was important as well. Auburn, what happened? Well, the lad
He had
McConkey
a pick
throw.
in Auburn too. Nakobe had a pick in Auburn. He
Yeah,
dove for it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was one of the most beautiful throws I've seen Stetson make was that lad throw at Auburn. Stetson has made good deep balls all year. He's
He's playing well. He did not play
people
well against Charleston Southern. Okay, he just
no, but he
didn't.
didn't have to. He didn't
No,
have
he
to.
didn't
That's
have to,
not
and he didn't have to against Tech. I'm just saying he played well against Tech, and you want to play well like that. There's not. I don't know if people if you're playing well, you want to continue to play well. There's no magic formula that like, oh, we learned our lesson in a 7-day period. No, man. If you're not playing well, you're not right. You don't feel right. Like you can't do what you're supposed to do the right way. It's very annoying, frankly. I felt that a lot. So you want to play well, and right now they're playing well. The flip side of that, I guess, is that Ohio State played well, and it just didn't go well after that. But
no. I mean, they could get into Mercedes-Benz Stadium and just dud out for a day. I mean, it's
Georgia,
very possible.
totally,
Yeah,
yeah, they could, but Alabama could too.
yeah.
I want to get back to this Michigan thing too. I just for the record, I do think Georgia will win. Michigan will win, and Cincinnati will win. I don't know who's. I guess Oklahoma State. I'm not as brave on that deal. I don't know, but when you look back at Michigan, and again, I think they'll win, but a touchdown win over Rutgers, a 3-point win over Nebraska on the road, obviously a 4-point loss to Michigan State, a 4-point win on the road against Penn State. They play tight games at times. Alabama has played tight games at times. You shouldn't be playing tight games against Rutgers. You shouldn't be playing tight games against Nebraska. You probably shouldn't be playing tight games against Penn State if we're being honest. But I think they get past Iowa, a team that got up to number 2, and I felt wasn't so hot. But whatever. They're there. They can get to the Rose Bowl. It's an important moment for those guys.
You're saying Iowa could get to the Rose Bowl because of the.
Yeah, you win the Big Ten, you go to the Rose Bowl. It's what it is. I mean, but they're skating. They're barely survived. They beat. I watched the Nebraska game. They won that game by a touchdown. They beat Minnesota, who is not good, by 5. They beat Northwestern by 5, who is not good. They beat Penn State by 3, who is not great. They beat Iowa. Excuse me. They beat Colorado State, who is definitely not good, by 10. These are not great teams, but dude, I mean, listen, I'll run it back one time for Alabama. You know, Alabama has not had. I mean, it's not been the typical Nick season there, and it's not been ideal. I mean, you just react to each one of these because you've watched Alabama just like I have. 2-point win at the Swamp. Comment, very quick comment.
I thought that they were in trouble after that.
Three point.
I think actually that was the moment I knew Georgia was the best team in the country. That was my defining moment for them.
That was the day Georgia beat South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. 3-point win against a loss to Texas A&M.
We watched that together. I mean, we thought that they had the juice to come back, and they
I
just
thought they
didn't.
did.
It's not. It's not a typical Nick Saban team. Something that's interesting. I think there's been some commentary on maybe discrediting the strength of this playoff because you have teams like Oklahoma State. Michigan hasn't been there before. Cincinnati. It's just one of those years where these typical programs didn't make it because they're not as good this year. That doesn't mean that the playoff is not competitive.
You have a dominant team, though, and the dominant team, just like LSU in 19 and Alabama in 20, is going to have to prove that they're dominant, and you do that by going out and winning these last 3 games by 10-plus points. Now, it's easy for me to say. I don't have to line up and do it, but that's what's in front of this team. And we can talk about where they are in the pantheon of history if they go 15-0. But there's only been 2 other teams, 2 other teams that have done that in the history of college football: Clemson and LSU in back-to-back years. I mean, Alabama last year, I think probably would have gone 15-0 if I mean, I
I
don't.
think so too.
I mean, I don't see how they wouldn't have, but that's me. And so you're talking about pro. I mean, this is something we can talk about in the summer, but you're getting the same programs over and over again who are really capturing all of the talent and using it to try to get these crazy runs to 15-0, which is what used to try to get in high school football. It used to be in college football that you'd win 13 games and win the national championship, or just even 12. But the extra 3 games or 2 games, it's a lot. And this Georgia needs to be ready to go. I don't have any doubt that they will be ready to go. But it's not just being ready. You had to have been ready in February, March, and all the way through there. It's all built up to now, to where they've done the work. And being ready is only one aspect of it. You had to have gotten a lot of work done in the summer and before, and I think they have. And we're just going to see on Saturday.
I think that there's definitely been a very positive and confident vibe from the
Yes.
players and from Kirby since the off season, since we got to talk to
Yep.
them at SEC Media Days. We get to talk to them around G Day. There was definitely exuding confidence. I think we could tell that this season is going to be special. When we asked the players when they knew that this was going to be a special team, they say the summer they were for sure that this was a really special group of guys. They care about each other a lot more. They've done a lot more. They've had a lot more meetings, personally getting to know each other. It's a tight knit group that really supports each other, no matter who's on the field. And they've got 3 more games to prove they're one of the best ever.
Right.
They got to do it though.
Yeah, I mean, or they will get lambasted for not getting it done again. And
Exactly.
the ridiculous thing that would come up is if you can't win it with this team, you'll never win it. That's just stupid. I mean, that's just like suggesting Oklahoma would never win another national championship. Come on, that's just not how it goes. Well, look, we'll see you on the website, dawgpost.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you over there.